Welcome to this Pastel My Business online webinar.
In today's webinar, we will be addressing performing a bank reconciliation. Okay, so in many cases, the bank will hold all your balances, and so what you're receiving, what you're paying, and so forth on your bank statements. So all that processing will be part of your banking side. However, on your accounting side, you need to compensate for that. So you need to make sure that whatever is going through the bank's accounts is balancing and is in your accounting books. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to log in. For any new people, you purely just go to the website, so www.pastelmybusiness.co.za. Okay, once you're in there, you'd be required to log in with your username and password. Today's webinar is going to be quite short since we're just dealing with the bank reconciliation side. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to cover how to import that bank statement, and then as well have an open question and answer session. So you're more than welcome to stay for that session. Otherwise, as soon as we're done with the bank recon, you're more than welcome to leave as well. Okay, so all I'm doing now is I'm logging into my system. Okay, so as I mentioned, initially what you'd need to do is you'd have to set a time period of when you're going to do this. So whether it be every second week, every week, or every month that you reconcile. So you're comparing your actual bank statement that you receive from the bank, and you compare this to what is physically on your system. You'll see that we have enabled the functionality where you can import your bank statement. In this sense, if you're importing your bank statement, you shouldn't have a problem when you reconcile due to the fact that you're importing exactly what is stipulating on that bank statement. However, some people do prefer to manually process on the accounting side. So they simply go banking, process banks and credit cards. In this case, you'd need to take your bank statement and then from there reconcile it. Alternatively, as I said, if you're importing, it should be exactly the same. But it's always good to have a look that everything does reconcile. I've got a question quickly from Tracy. Tracy wants to know why she's been muted. Tracy initially stated just when starting, unfortunately I do mute everyone during the webinar just so that I can be heard by everyone. And then I do deal with questions at the bottom. So once the webinar is done, I'm going to provide you with all our telephone numbers, so from the support side, support email side. So if you do have any questions and you would like to speak to someone, by all means you can give us a ring. So Tracy, I hope that does answer your question. So everyone is muted, only I can be heard. Okay, so just to continue on the banking side, so you've gone through the process, either you've imported or you've processed your cash books on a weekly, monthly, every second week, or either every second month basis. So what would happen is you need to go to your Reconciled banks and credit cards. Okay, in many cases, every company might have different bank accounts. So it does allow you to actually go and pick that separate bank account. So if you've got different bank accounts, you'll have to reconcile for each one of those. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and select my relevant bank accounts. From there, it will indicate the balance as well. So this is the point where you have to compare what is your balance on the system compared to what is your balance on your physical bank statement that you've received from the bank. Okay, you can also indicate the dates and then also display reconciled transactions if that need be. And then from there, it will actually reflect. In my case, I haven't reconciled anything as yet. Okay, so it will also give you a reference. So it will tell you exactly where this was processed. So this was done on the receipt side and then on the payment side. So PAY, RCP. So it'll just indicate the document reference on that side. Also the date when it was done, and then also your selection. So what is the description of this? Okay, and then there you've also got an indication. So what is it, a supplier, customer, or an account payment? Okay, you'll have the total of that. So initially what you need to do now is you need to separately have your bank statement on the side while you're busy working through that. Have a look through the bank statement and see, okay, do I have a payment of that amount? You basically go and tick it. From there, your telephone and internet, tick that as well. And then from there, you'd be able to reconcile and see exactly what has and has not been paid. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to log out of here and go to the demo company, which has a bit more data. I've got a question from Nikki. Nikki wants to know, if you process a receipt for payment and the system picks up the same payment from the bank statement, it duplicates and puts the account into a credit. Should one therefore not process receipts? Nikki, initially, like I indicated, you need to decide either you're going to import your bank statement or otherwise you're going to process it separately. If you do both of them, yes, there is a case where you're going to have duplications, especially if it's done twice. So what I would suggest is initially deciding which payments you guys are going to do, import, and initially which you're going to manually put into the system. If there are duplications, however, what you can always do is go into your banking side and then while processing and view all the previous transactions and go and remove that duplicate transaction. So don't worry too much if there is a duplicate. That's why you do that reconciliation to see, is there a duplicate payment? If so, go into your banking and you simply just go banking, process banks and credit cards. From there, go and indicate your relevant bank. And then there's an option you'll see. It will say show previous credit card, bank and credit card transactions. If I tick that block, the system will run and bring up all previous transactions being processed. Okay, so that brings it up for me. So in that scenario, if you've imported and you've processed, you'll see on that specific date, you'll have 2 payments. All you need to do is, if you have a look on the right-hand side, there's a delete line, and you can simply just go and delete that specific transaction. So Nikki, I hope that answers your question in that aspect. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue with the bank recon side. So very much a simple process. However, it's the attention to detail. You need to ensure that everything balances, because you need to ensure that what's reflecting on your bank statements as a total is the same as what is on your accounting side of things. Otherwise, something's not been processed or something's been over-processed. And in many cases, I mean, if a company issues, let's say, a check, if you're still working with checks, from there it hasn't been presented yet. You're making a payment to a supplier. The supplier hasn't physically gone to the bank yet and actually deposited that check. Then it won't reflect as yet. So what you can do is always hold on that, wait till the next month, and then see if it reflects then. But make notes on your bank statement or something to say, okay, well, I need to make sure that next month it is there. So that it doesn't come to a whole 12-month period and you sit with transactions where you don't know where to put them and so forth. So reconcile it, make notes for yourself so that you keep looking at that month on month. I've got another question from Nikki. Sometimes the system automatically allocates receipts and sometimes you have to manually allocate it. Why is this? Nikki, you'll see there is a function been provided on the system where you can actually map descriptions, or otherwise also on your import side, you also have an option to map it there. So all you're doing is you're telling the system, you're making the system smart and according to how your transactions come through on your bank statement side or how you capture it. So if you had to, let's say, import or otherwise even process and you put in telecom, you've told the system prior to that to say, if I'm selecting telecom, I know that this is an account and it must go to my telephone account. So that's simply why it's done. If you want to do it for all your transactions as you go along, you've got that option to map description list. What it's going to do is it's going to bring up all my map transactions now. So as you can see there, I've told the system when you see a certain amount, well, certain thing on the statement, automatically go and allocate it. So that saves you a bit of time, so you don't have to do duplicates. So there's just the example I mentioned there at the bottom. I've indicated telecom, account, telephone, and then also the tax on there. You see, so beforehand you're setting up the system and you're telling the system what to do. Okay, so Nikki, I hope that answers your question. So if you've got those receipts that aren't allocating and you would like them to, go into your map description list, or otherwise as you're importing your bank statement, go and map it and that will indicate it. Okay, so let me quickly go back on that reconciliation side. Okay, perfect. So, I mean, nothing too complicated. Like I said, this is going to be a very short session, and then I'm going to open it up to any questions. So, any questions you've got on the system. Please note as well that the webinar that you're attending now, we're dealing with a specific subject. We do, however, have a webinar available where we initially give it to people who are starting off with the system, and we do cover everything on the system. So, from a point of how you create your company to a point of how you load your customers, your suppliers, put in balances and so forth. So if you are interested in attending those webinars, those are available. We have one of those each and every month. Okay, so by all means, at the end of the session, I'm going to give you the contact details. So give us a ring and we can send you the links. You can already register now for that. Okay, perfect. Okay, so not too complicated in the sense. All you're going to do is you're going to tick the indication of what has been reconciled. So you're looking at your physical bank statement now. You're looking at the amount being paid there, and you're basically indicating it. So in this case, let's say there's a morning on a receipt side. Okay, so let's say I haven't seen this payment as yet on my bank statement. And this could be due to the fact that, like I said earlier, the physical supplier hasn't gone yet to the bank and deposited this physical check that I gave him. So what I'll do is I'll leave that one out. I'll make a note on my bank recon to have a look in the next month that does physically balance. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it open now for any questions, and then from there I'm gonna open it up just for any general questions. Okay, so initially what I wanted to touch, because I find that there might be a bit of confusion when it comes to importing your bank statement, but it's actually such a simple process. So let me quickly take you through that as well. Oh, please note just another point before we leave the reconciliation side. As soon as you're done reconciliating, you need to ensure at the bottom that you select Save. Otherwise, save and new if you want to reconcile a different account. Remember, if you go straight out of there, the system won't reconcile it. So all the work you might have done would now be lost, and you need to start over. So always important, remember to save everything once you've done with it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the importing bank statement side. Like I said, importing is so nice, and the thing is, it also minimizes that. It makes your reconciliation process very minimal, because the thing is, you're importing exactly what is stated on the bank statement, so no need to physically go and type it out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I just want to refer to my Excel spreadsheet on my bank test file. Okay, so I'm just waiting quickly for that to reflect on your side. Okay, perfect. So as you can see on your screen at the moment, this is this. Okay, so you've got two different types of formats. You've got an OFX format and you've got a CSV. Okay, so OFX, always your first alternative, the most easiest format due to the fact that you simply go into your internet banking. From there you export it. So have a look. Different banks may call it a bit different, but even if they're putting in Microsoft OFX, Excel OFX, whichever it might be, OFX is OFX as long as it's got that extension somewhere there in the wording. Export that file. So simply all you're doing is going into your internet banking, from there going to your statements, so wherever they might be on your different banks, and then from there you selecting export it, and then saving it somewhere. So whether you're saving it on your desktop or specific folder that you've indicated prior to actually going in there, you can just save it into there, so the different months as well. Once that's done, you'll simply just import it into My Business Online. So you won't have to open it up, make sure it's in the correct fields or anything like that. However, on the other alternative, if you don't have a OFX, a majority of the banks do support this OFX. So have a look. I mean, give us a ring if you're unsure. Otherwise, call your bank as well. Ask them, is there an OFX format that you can make use of? But like I said, majority of the big banks do support OFX. However, in a case where you don't have an OFX format and you've only got the alternative of the CSV, different banks have numerous amounts of fields. So, I mean, let's say Standard Bank might have 6 fields, Nedbank might have 4 fields, and FNB might have 7 fields. In that case, the system won't allow you to just import that file. So it would be required of you to actually go and open up that the CSV folder that you've exported, open it up into Excel, and then have a look. The thing is, the format that you're seeing now on my screen, that is the correct format. You'll see on your banking side, you might have history, it will have different fields, but all you need is only the date, description, amount. That's about it, and then whether it's on a credit debit basis as well, so minus or plus. You'll see that you won't actually have to do a lot of adjustment. All you'd be doing is just deleting relevant fields, so to ensure you've got these 3 fields. Then as well, your date is important. You need to make sure that the date structure, so that you select when importing that bank statement. So let's say mine is day, month, year. I'm going to go and indicate day, month, year. Okay, so once that's done, so you've put in the correct format. From there, you can save it. So ensure that you do save it into a CSV file. Otherwise, the system won't import it in that sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this file of mine at the moment, or I can actually just leave it open. And then I'm going to log into my, well, go back into my business system. Okay, I'm just waiting for it to come up on your side. I've got a question from Manuel. The bank statement description is normally a combination of other symbols. Will it identify the word telecom? Yes, Manuel. What you'll do is initially when you're importing your statement, so I know what you're referring to. It's like the banking jargon. So they'll have a whole bunch of numbers prior to that. Then they'll only mention telecom and a whole bunch of wording and numbering thereafter. So all you'll basically do is you'll tell the system when you see something like that, read telecom for me, and the system will pick up the telecom and automatically allocate it. So what you can do is, test it on your site, import that bank statement, and then from there map it. So the mapping is on the which I'm going to show you now as I import this. But the mapping is on your right-hand side, and then from there the system will read that telecom and it will also display that. Because, in the end, we don't need all that banking jargon that they put before and after our descriptions. I've got a question from Lee. If I started a month on my business and the account wants to upload updated info, must I delete that? What's been uploaded, or will the system allow you to replace the old data with the new data? Lee, it really depends. I'm not too sure I've got some clarity on exactly what you're asking, but the system does allow you, the thing is, once you've actually put in opening balances for your customers or your suppliers, once you physically process on the customer, the system does seal it in. However, you do have options to adjust the balance. However, if you've, let's say, signed up for the 30 days, or you've done it for a month, and what is in there is incorrect, let's say you just took it for a trial period, what you can always do is you can simply go and create another company and maybe call this one old. Or otherwise, if you'd prefer, you can delete it. But yeah, if you've already set up a few customers, export those files, so that saves you a bit of time. Export all the files and then import it as well. So Lee, I hope that answers your question. Let me know if you're referring to something different. I've got a question from Craig. Craig wants to know, how do you adjust the opening balance? Okay, Craig, I'm assuming on the banking side, since we've dealt with that at the moment. If you go under your banking option, there's an option where it says adjust banks and credit card opening balances. So what I'll do is let me quickly import this and then I'll go and touch on that again. But everything, if you look under all your tabs, so whether it be customers, suppliers, at the bottom you've got adjust an opening balance option where you can simply go and put this in. Okay, I've got a question from Grant as well. Grant wants to know, I've imported my bank statement. How do I match the payments to different clients? Also, my bank balance is different in Pastel compared to my bank. Okay, Grant, so this is specifically, if those balances are different, this is the point where you need to reconcile it. So you need to go and have a look what's physically got processed on through the bank. So that would be on your bank statement versus what's been processed in the My Business Online system. And then what you'd also need to do is, at which point did you start? Was there an opening balance put in on that or not? Okay, so the thing is, initially when you're setting up your bank account, so you're going list of bank accounts, you're initially just starting out and you want to go and set up your bank account, you need to say add account. When you indicate add account, you'll basically put in all the information of that account, and then from there you'll see there's also an opening balance option. So make sure if you are, let's say your financial year ended February and you're starting the 1st of March, your date would be the 1st of March and also your opening balance. Let's say you're starting now in July. So your balance would be as at the end of June, and then the balance going as at the end of June as well. You'd put that in and then also indicate the date. So end of June and then the balance as at the end of June. So Grant, I hope that answers your question on that. I've got a question from Samantha. Samantha wants to know, should we reconcile petty cash too, or is it only for bank accounts? Samantha, when you see, well, you have an option actually where you can set up a petty cash in My Business Online as well. Because it's quite important to keep track of your petty cash as well, and that you'll see at the bottom. Because you need to monitor as well, because physically that money is coming from one of your bank accounts and it's basically been allocated. You need to still monitor the path of where is that money going, because otherwise if you don't monitor that, it's going to be a case of where money is just being used all the time. So what I would suggest, that because it doesn't go directly through the bank statements, if you guys have some sort of mechanism, so whether it be a little petty cash book that you're monitoring what payments are coming in, what payments are going out, and then from there reconciling it, because it's quite important, especially if you're allocating large sums to that petty cash. So that needs to be monitored as well. So Samantha, I hope that answers your question. I've got a question from Chumba. Chumba wants to know, once you reconcile the bank statement, made a mistake, example, allocated a sales account instead of a customer, how do you reverse this? Okay, so that would simply be on the banking side. So you'd go banking, process banks and credit cards. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll see there's a show previous bank and credit card transactions. Like I said, just simply tick that. It will bring up all your previous transactions. If you've got a few, what you can always do is go and indicate the date from day 2. So if you know that this specific thing happened, whether it be in March, go and select your March date, and then from there you can reconcile it. Okay, so what will happen is you'll see you'll have the following. So let's say, I'm going to take the advertising agents as an example. So I've allocated that to an account. Instead, I know that is one of my suppliers. And then from there, I go and allocate the relevant supplier. And then you can process it after that. So you'll see it makes it very simple that you can go in and actually fix what you might have incorrectly allocated, which is quite nice, because if you're importing your bank statement, you might not be too sure, but you allocate it anyways. And then from there, you can always go and fix it. So I hope that answers your question, Chumba. Okay, what I'm going to do is I see there's no more questions, so I'm going to go on the banking side and continue with showing you how to import the bank statement. Okay, so like I said, go into your bank, from there, export the file. OFX is your first option, so have a look if you have that one. Alternatively, CSV. Okay, so once that's saved somewhere on your computer, you'll simply go import bank statements. Okay, and then you'll go select the relevant bank. So remember, if you've got numerous bank accounts, so whether it be a check, a savings, a credit card, whichever it might be, you've got to go and create different bank accounts for that. So when you're accessing that bank account, you need to ensure that you're on that relevant bank account, that you're exporting an OFX or CSV file for each one of those, so that you correctly reconcile it on this side, on the My Business Online side, that is. Okay, so what you're going to do is select the relevant bank account. From there, you're going to import. So in this case, I didn't have an option for OFX, so I'm selecting CSV. So remember on that format, so if I have a look at my Excel spreadsheet, the system's asking me what is my date format. And remember, if you don't select that correct, the system is going to give you an error message and won't import it. So have a look. If I have a look at my Excel spreadsheet, I can see it's day, month, year. So all I'm going to do is go back into there. From there, I'm going to see, okay, perfect. Day, month, year, that is the format I'm in. From there, I'm going to browse. So where did I save it? From there, I'm going to select my banking test file and import file. And then there are all my transactions. So quick and easy like that, instead of manually typing each one of those out. You'll see as well, just another note on when you export into CSV. In many cases, we tend to always miss at the bottom, there's always a balance, so just a total. Please ensure that you do delete that, otherwise the system won't import it. So if you've got pages and pages of this bank statement, just go to the last page have a look, there's a balance, remove that balance because the system won't import that. I've got a question from William. Is OFX preferred over CSV, just better for integration to use OFX? 100% William. OFX, like I said, is an easier format due to the fact that I always refer to it as there's no handling needed. So that means you don't have to go into Excel, have a look that it's in the correct amount of fields. So always select, if you have an OFX option, please select that one. It saves you all this of going into Excel, making sure it's in the correct format. So if not, then OFX is your alternative, and it's quite quick and easy to actually do it. But OFX is quick in the sense that you're exporting it, importing it. No need to open up in Excel. Okay, but I mean, if you're in that process and you're unsure and you're having complications on the CSV side due to the fact that you don't have an OFX file, call our support team. They're more than willing to assist you, and they'll exactly show you how the format should be and so forth. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I just want to go back into that banking side. So I've imported my CSV file now. From here, the system's going to ask me now, what is my type and what is my selection? So as you can see, it will pull through the dates, it will pull through the description, and also the amounts and so forth. Okay, so what I need to do now is I need to go and indicate exactly what it is. So I'm going to delete some of them that I haven't set up accounts for as yet, but in this sense, I'm going to go to customers. From there, I'm going to make a selection on okay, so the file I'm using doesn't match this one, but what I'll do is, I mean, the thing is yours is going to match. You're going to know which is your customers, which is your suppliers. So in this sense, I'm going to allocate it even though it's the same account, but irrespective. Also change your bank description. But what's nice is, if you have a look on the right-hand side, there's a map option. So if I select map, I'm telling the system, enter the text to map to description found in the bank statement. Okay, so this is in the case that's with a question that I had earlier. So in many cases, this will be the jargon used on the banking side. So it will be something similar to this, but it doesn't ever make sense to us, but that's the type of description they'd use. From there, you'd go and tell the system, okay, you know what, only read the telecom part, and then from there, put in only telecom, because I don't really care about the rest of it. And then from there, I can save it. So what will happen is that field will basically gray out to indicate, okay, fine, it has been mapped. And then from there, you can go to the next one. So you can go, okay, I know this is an account. From there, I'm going to go and indicate it to my loan account. Okay, you've also got an option where you can save it. The system won't allow you to save it if it's not been allocated to a relevant account. So ensure that when you are setting it up, if you are allocating it, let's say in the case that you're not too sure what it might be, from their process, but make a note so that you can go back and actually make those relevant changes. I've got a question from Lee. Lee wants to know, when you're busy on your banking side, so you're allocating a receipt, she wants to be able to allocate that receipt to an invoice. Unfortunately, you can't do that on My Business Online. Very much different to our medium-sized business product. However, what you can do is we've got an option where you can allocate receipts. Alternatively, when you're setting up your customer, you have an option to either allocate it to the last invoice. So what the system will do is automatically just deduct it. So as money is received, as money is processed, you can allocate it. Well, the system automatically allocates it to the last one, or alternatively, you can go into customers, allocate receipts. From there, go and select the relevant customer. And then what will happen is when you're allocating this relevant customer, you'll see on your left-hand side, all the invoices will display. On your right-hand side, all the invoices. So this is anything that you've imported on the banking side and you've allocated to the specific customer. All you'd be required to do is just drag it across and pop it into the relevant invoice. So I hope that makes sense. If you'd like me to go more into detail on this, I could actually show you on how payment is made, how you drag it across, and so forth. I've got a question from Manuel. Manuel wants to know, I'm planning to move to Pastel Online from the 1st of July. Should I import bank statements only from the 1st of July, or can I import bank data from way back? Okay, Manuel, the thing is, if you're moving from a previous package, it is quite important to ensure that you don't duplicate that, because if you're using your books, so this also depends on your financial year as well. The system does allow you to do previous financial years and so forth due to the fact that we are very much date-driven and not period-driven. However, what I would suggest is if you're closing off your books as at the 1st of July, and well, let's say, yeah, as at the 1st of July, what you'll do is only initially then come and put in your balance and then from there import your bank statement. And this is purely for the aspect of at the end of your financial year, you need to consolidate what you've done in your previous package to what's been done on My Business so that you can ensure there's no duplicates. And if you capture in previous ones, so I mean, in a case if you don't want the data that was previously done, then yes, technically you'd be starting from scratch then. So you would be able to process that. But if you want to consolidate your previous system to what's on My Business, I wouldn't suggest actually only once you close off the books on the previous system, then only move over and put in the balance. So that closing balance, put it as an opening balance. I hope that makes sense, Manuel. Let me know if you've got any other questions. I've got a question from Andre. Andre wants to know, does the system use exact or potential matches when importing? Example, I type in ABC Trust, will it import whatever it sees ABC or Trust, or will when it sees ABC Trust? Okay, so that will specifically be the ABC Trust. So what you've stipulated, that would be the key. So in your sense, if you're putting ABC Trust, it's only going to pick up ABC Trust. So if you've got someone else that's indicated as ABC, the system is not going to indicate it, neither as Trust will it not indicate it. I've got a question from Margot. Margot wants to know, in the selection it specifies add new bank account. Could you add those as loan payments, so forth? Margot, the thing is, if you're processing payments and loans and stuff, that would be more on your banking side. So that means you're receiving money or either you're making a payment. However, in many cases, there might be other accounts that you might have, which you can set up. I mean, sometimes you're setting up a petty cash. So if there's money going in and out of a certain system and you want to compensate for that, you can. What I would suggest is if you want to give us a ring after the session, give us a ring and then maybe we can create more clarity on exactly what it is. But I mean, in a loan, just what you've indicated there on the loan and payment side, I mean, on the banking side, the loan's going to come in. So you're going to have a receipt of that and then you're going to have a liability of that. And same on the payment. So it's banking on a payment specific side. So Margot, I hope that answers your question. Okay, I've got a question from Ashley, who wants to know to go more into detail how to allocate. So the specific screen you're looking at now. So initially what will happen is, okay, so let me just indicate quickly. Okay, so I'm going to go on my importing bank statement side. Okay, so I'm going to quickly show you once you've either imported your bank statement or alternatively you've manually put it in, you've allocated it to certain people, right? Okay, so from here what I'm going to do is I'm going to indicate my customer. Okay, so I'm going to just test it with the one specific customer. I just want to change that description. Okay, I mean in your case you're going to allocate this to every, so the loan account, insurance if that's been set up. So always make sure when you are allocating this you have created those accounts prior, and that can simply be done under accounts, list of accounts. Please be advised though, make sure when you're setting up these list accounts that they are correctly allocated. If they aren't, you're going to have major problems on which financial statement it's pulling through to. So get some advice from your accountant, from your bookkeeper. Alternatively, if you know where it's supposed to be allocated, by all means. But like I said, make sure that that is always correct, because it's hard to delete stuff when you've already processed on it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete the rest of these because I just want to actually show the... Okay, so all I'm going to do now is process. Okay, so I've imported my bank statements, I've processed it. Okay, and I see I have more on there. Okay, so have a look, the system does actually indicate how many. Okay, so I'm just going to delete all these because I don't need that. Okay, the system will actually indicate how many it's reflecting. Okay, so all I'll need to do is now process. Okay, perfect. So that's processed now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Customer, Allocate Receipts. From there, go and select that relevant customer that I imported for. So now automatically you'll see on my right-hand side, I have that receipt that I just imported and allocated. So what will happen is if I know that is for a specific invoice, I'll go and allocate it to the specific invoice. Alternatively, what you can always do is, let's say in that sense where I've got a 14, I'm referring to invoice 175 now. I've got a balance of 14,363. What I'm going to do is I can see the payments is, all I do is I drag it across. I'm just waiting for it to appear on your side. Okay, so if you can see there, it says one row selected, it's got a green tick. If I move it on the other side, it will actually go red and will say no line. So that means it will just jump back to where it was. So when dragging it across, ensure that the tick only actually goes green. Okay, I'm just waiting for your side to come. Okay, perfect. Then all you do is you drop it into there. What will happen is the system will actually indicate that receipt document there. But now you'll see because that balance was only 14, the system throws back the rest of the receipt amount. So if you have a look on the right-hand side, I've still got a balance outstanding there. So what I can always do is go to the next invoice, drop it on that invoice, it's got an amount, and the system will keep until that balance basically becomes 0. Okay, so that's how you'll allocate the payments to the specific invoices. So Ashley, I hope that answers your question and a few other people that might have been querying that. And then from there, remember, always save as soon as you're done with anything specific. So you'll just go save at the bottom. Okay, I had a question as well from Kenita. If I load a customer in error, how can I delete this customer? Okay, so the thing is, if you've loaded an error, you need to make sure that this customer that there's not been any transacting to the customer. If there has been any transacting to the customer, you won't be able to delete the customer. So if you're initially just setting up your company and you're starting to create those customers, those suppliers, your items, and so forth, this would be your best time to actually go and print out a report, have a look what customers you have listed. Make sure that, well, on the information side, you can always go back and change that information. But if there's any processing, the system actually won't allow you to remove it. And this is the type of message you will get. Customer has activity and cannot be deleted. Okay, so I hope that answers your question as well, Kenita. I've got a question from Kyan. Apologies if I get your name wrong. How far can you go back to import bank statements? The thing is, you can go very far back due to the fact that you can go and set up previous financial years. So if you, let's say, 2 years behind on your books, what you can do is you can go set up those 2 prior years. From there, if you can get those bank statements still from your bank side, you can import that. Like I indicated, my business online is very date driven. So we work from a specific, if your financial year is from March till end of February, then that's your financial year, and we'll indicate it on the years as well. So no periods whatsoever. So let's say you in October and oops, you forgot to process something in March. You can go back and actually go and process. Well, not go back. Technically, you'd just be going in and creating that March invoice or processing that payments and so forth. So again, if you want to go back, all you need to do is go into your company settings, go edit your company, and go and select that, set up that financial year that you need to create. Kind of hope that answers your question. Okay, I'm just quickly going to go into the banking side, just trying to work through some of the questions. I've got a question from Ashley. Ashley wants to know, does the trial version have the full functionality? Yes. So exactly what you're seeing now on the My Business side, as soon as you move over after the 30-day trial period, you have full access. That's exactly what you see. So you initially got full, and once you move into after your trial period, it's also full access to the system. So I hope that answers your question on that side. Okay, what I'm going to do is I just want to give you guys the number as well for our support team just before everyone leaves. So if you've got any queries and you want to drop us an email, you can simply do that to support@pastelmybusiness.co.za. So I'm just going to repeat that, support@pastelmybusiness.co.za. Alternatively, if you want to speak to someone, you can give them a call on 011-304-3805. And if you've got any other sales-related queries, by all means, call us on 011-304-3663. Okay, so those are just the numbers. By all means, even if you call Pastel, they will allocate you to the correct departments. And also, there's a contact us option as well, so you can go there as well. Please have a look as well. We also have a help option. So this is if you want access to send the email directly, or alternatively, if you want to access we've set up great user guides as well, where you can actually work through that. And I can guarantee you it'd probably take you less than half a day to work through that. And very nice print screens and all of that stuff. So download that as well under your help option. You've got that. We've also got online help, so where you can type in just a simple word and the system will bring you all documents up and you can select the relevant one. Alternatively, we've got these webinars as well, and if you're looking at getting someone to assist you on the system from a bookkeeping or accountant perspective, we've got an option where you can find a consultant. Okay, so if you have a look on top there, find a consultant. So these are people that are physically working with the system. They'll be able to assist you, and from there you can also get them maybe to assist you on a regular basis. So find an accountant, find a bookkeeper, find a reseller. So depending on what you're looking for, what type of assistance you want. Okay, so you can have a look at that as well. I've got a question from Jacques, I think it is, Kruger, wants to know, will there be another training session like this in the near future? Yes, in fact, we have 2 a month. One is an overview of the whole entire product. So I think if you've seen that once, you won't have to see it again. But once a month, we deal with different topics. Today we did the bank reconciliation, which was a short webinar. So I have opened it up to questions. But alternatively, other webinars do take a lot longer. But yeah, the system is very much simple and easy. So attend some of those webinars, have a look. I think after 3-4 webinars, you'll definitely get the drift of the product. Okay, so let me just quickly go back. I'm just having a look at any other questions. So feel free to put in any questions that you might have. And even any questions on today's webinar, so the reconciling bank side. Okay, I've got a question from, I've got a question from Claire. Claire wants me to repeat the support number, 011-304-3805. Claire, if you lose that piece of paper you're writing it out on, please have a look on top. There is a contact us option. So by all means, go to that contact us on the top right-hand side. All our details are there. So don't worry too much if you don't get that number. Okay, so like I mentioned, top right-hand side, contact us. All our details are there, all our email addresses and so forth. And then also this Getting Started guide that I mentioned as well, and frequently asked questions. Okay, perfect. So I just want to go back into that process. Okay, so I had a question from Warren. Warren wants to know, in the process bank and credit card screen, I've ticked show previous bank and credit card transactions. Okay, it displays all my transactions, and on some of them I'm able to change the tax type, but the others I'm not. Why is this? I need to change some. They are grayed out. Okay, you'll see in many cases, Warren, I just want to confirm, if I'm not mistaken, have you imported your bank statements at all? If not, the system, when it comes to your supply side of it, due to the fact that we have reduced it and so forth, the system won't allow you to change it. So let's say you need to change it from a certain supplier to, let's say, a customer, whichever it might be, you'd be able to do that because that wouldn't technically have an effect on your tax type. However, if this needs to be an account, what you need to do is you actually need to delete it. From there, go and add a new line, and then just type out exactly what you had there. So even if you want to do it below it, you can put in the tax type and so forth. And this is simply just for the recon process, so to ensure that you don't duplicate anything or allocate something and then unallocate it. So on the account side, you can do this. However, when you're allocating to suppliers and you want to change that to an account, you can't actually do that. Okay, so all you'll do is delete that line. You'll see the line actually goes through there. From there, add a line and put in that relevant amount. And if you want to undo that, let's say you've incorrectly, you just click the undo button, and then from there you can delete that line. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Warren. I've got a question from Lee. Lee wants to know, you mentioned you'd advise how we can join the full overview webinars. Lee, what you can do is I would suggest on our Contact Us option, if you can please send an email to sales@pastelmybusiness.co.za. What we'll do is we'll ensure, so just send a mail to that, indicate that you would like to attend the webinar. What we'll do is we'll ensure we send that invite to you. So get that sent through, and then, like I said, I'll send the invite through to you, and you can actually attend the webinar. I've got a question from William. William wants to know, when setting up an item, is there any ways to put in a code when doing this? Okay, as you can see, and if you've gone a bit through the program, you'll see we're very much not code-driven, but rather description-driven. In many cases, however, the inventory that people manage needs to be well, it needs to have codes. So what you can do is, in many cases, Warren, I've seen this has worked, and people are quite comfortable doing this, is in your description you can actually go and allocate a code. So whether it be 1,000 dash or space indicating that, or 1,000 dots and then your description, you can actually put that in. So you can put your coding in as that if you have that need to put in coding. Alternatively, if descriptions work for you, do not worry about the coding at all. So William, I hope that answers your question. I've got a question from Manuel. Manuel, I'm quickly having a look at your question. I just want to make sure that I understand it 100%. Account has made specific accounting changes to my PC-based Pastel, to my business, specific needs and operations. Is the online system also flexible to handle these specific changes? Warren, oh, sorry, Manuel, maybe you could just be specific on what changes that is. See, because the thing is, if I'm referring to changes, so you're installing Windows 7, now Windows 8, whichever it might be, that doesn't really have an effect on My Business Online due to the fact that it is a web-based system. Your data doesn't physically lie on your computer, and that's why you never have to worry about backups. You always have access to that information from anywhere. So if there are any changes, always ensure that you have some sort of program where you can access yours. So whether it be Internet Explorer, whether you're using Mac and you want to access it through Safari, so whether you're using whichever type of system, I mean, majority of it, as long as you can access the internet, you can access the system. So it's not specific on your whether you're running Windows or any of those type of systems. So Manuel, I hope that creates clarity for you. I've got a question from Malako. Once you have captured an item, are you able to change the item? No. So what you need to do is you need to ensure, due to the fact that when you're setting up your items are very much different, especially in the listing. So if you're setting up an item that is a physical, the system actually asks you to indicate what it is. So whether physical, whether service. If you indicate physical, you'll have a look on the right-hand side. You've got an open quantity and also date at. A date as when that quantity was loaded, and then you've got your services which remove all of that. So there's a bit of difference, especially in a case where you want to monitor your items, so whether it be inventory and so forth. You need to ensure that you set that up actually correctly. Okay, so I've touched on that. I see there's no more questions. By all means, we've got a few more minutes. Sorry, if you've got any questions, please send that through to me. Okay, so Malako, just to touch on that, you'll see that the system actually grays out that option. And like I said, it's purely for that reason, because one, you've got average cost and quantity at hand, and the other one you don't. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. But like I said, I mean, your initial step is always to try and set up all your customers, all your supplies, all your items. And then from there, go print out a report to see exactly what are all your customers and so forth. And then from there, you can see that everything has been set up correctly. Okay, I'm just having a look if there's any more questions. I've got a question from Quinton. Quinton wants to know, does the bank Recon have a Reconcile all function? Okay, so as you can see, I mean, the thing is, the only reason you do this Reconcile is to make that comparison between what you've imported, what you haven't. So if this isn't done, you're still going to be able to process. Your reports will still be able to produce. The only difference is you might not balance. So if you want to reconcile all, you'd have to tick the blocks. Or alternatively, you don't even really, if you don't want to use this mechanism, so let's say you import, you know everything is balancing, then you don't have to come in here. Alternatively, it's always good to have a look that everything is fine within the system. Okay, just on a reporting side as well, if you go to your report side, you've got your banks, credit cards, and accounts. Okay, so you've got your list of bank accounts, bank and credit card transactions, which will show you exactly what's gone in, what's gone out. Any account transactions, list of accounts, and cash flow. Okay, so I mean, there's quite a few reports that you can make use of. What I would suggest is going into the system, having a look what type of reports there are, and then from the, selecting the ones that give you the type of information that you need to make decisions within the business. I've got another question from Ashley. Why is the tax option grayed out when processing supply payments? This is purely due to the fact that if you think about it, on a supply side, Ashley, especially if you're receiving payments or making payments, the invoice has already been compensated for on your customers and your suppliers. So that means you've done the invoice, the tax has been calculated and so forth. On the banking side, if you want to include tax, that means you're paying double tax on that amount. So that's specifically why the system doesn't allow you to change the supplier or customer's tax time, due to the fact that it has to be zero, because you've already set up an invoice to include that tax amount. So that total amount that you see that you're importing or paying or receiving, that is the total of the invoice including VAT. So to allocate a tax type to that means you're going to double up on the VAT, which would be incorrect. Ashley, I hope that answers the question on that side. Okay, I'm waiting for a few more questions. If there's no more questions, then what I'm going to do is call the webinar to an end. And like I said, there are We actually have a webinar next week if you'd like to attend that. Very simple and easy to use webinar. So that means that we'll touch on the whole product. So where you go to do certain things, where you add your logos, where you put in your banking details, and so forth. So like I said, if you are interested in that, drop us an email at sales@pastelmybusiness.co.za, and then from there we can actually invite you to that specific webinar.
Thank you for joining us for this My Business Online webinar. If you found it useful, please visit the Pastel website to find out about future My Business Online webinars or training courses. Alternatively, contact us on sales@pastelmybusiness.co.za.